On this episode, we install TCI Engineering independent front suspension on the front of this 51 F1 Ford. Follow along and enjoy the ride. Time to get started on the 52. Gonna put a TCI airbag independent front suspension, 4-link to back, and LS swap, the 4L60E. It's a pretty clean old Ford. Bought it from a company I work for, Kugler Oil Company. They had it at their gas station tire shop in McCook Tech Tire and at their fertilizer plant in Culbertson. And then they restored it in the early 90s. Just started in here with a time lapse of tearing her down. Front clip came up pretty easy. It's only like, 6 bolts or something like that. This flathead, I'm going to save it for a future project. We have a 32 Ford pickup cab that we found in a pasture that I think flathead will be better than that. Be out in the open where you can actually appreciate it instead of under the hood. They're fun to look at, but I think they're kind of a pain in the ass otherwise. So we'll stick an LS in this one and make it fun to drive, hide it under the hood. Might end up using this straight axle on a future project too, along with the wheels and tires. I like to keep that stuff around in case I ever do need it, or somebody I know needs it and I can use it for trading stock for something I do need. These rivets, kind of a pain in the butt to get out. Typically I just cross-cut the head with the grinder and then use the air chisel, pop that off, and then pop it through. But that didn't work. I had to drill almost all the way through. I don't know if I suppose it's because of the way they were kind of wedged in there at an angle. So got the drill out a couple times and finally got them to break free. Cleaning up the frame with the flap disc and wire wheel. Ended up using a surface contour tool from Harbor Freight. Worked really good. Left a nice clean surface to weld on and do layout. So probably end up using that to strip the rest of the frame once I take the cab off, before I paint it with that sweet patina frame paint. Demo is done on the front end. Got the frame cleaned up, all the old paint off, rivets ground off smooth, and put a few things away. Now I think it's time to get going on this TCI Engineering independent front suspension. First step is putting these boxing plates in. In order to do that, we've got to trim that bottom flange of the frame off. Make it the same as the top flange. See how it's sticking out. In order to mark that so I can cut it, took a piece of 2-inch flat stock, which is the same as the frame. Radius the edge so it fits up in there nice. I'll use that as my guide to mark that bottom flange. I'll use some layout die and scribe it and cut it with a jigsaw. So that'll be what's next. really close to that line, I can grind it to the line if I need to. All right, got it trimmed up. Use Cliff's jigsaw to take that extra off that bottom flange of the frame. Looks really good. I had to kind of square up the top flange also. Both boxing plates just kind of mocked up in there. Still got some fine tuning to get them perfectly square and exactly where they need to be, but rough dimension is now pretty close to what it needs to be. Put the cross member in there. So I'll just continue to try to get it as close to perfect as I can. All right, time to weld these boxing plates in. They say not to do more than 6 inches at a time. Move around to try to keep the metal from warping. So I move from left side to right side, top to bottom, jump around, keep it nice and cool. Clamp it where I need to adjust the gaps and weld it in. I'm still not that great with overhead welding, but getting there. This cross member, I trimmed it up to adjust the rake of the chassis to 0 degrees. I want it to sit nice and level going down the road and when it's aired out. So all right, I'm running into a little bit of an issue on installing this independent front suspension from TCI. If I follow their instructions and put 31 inches from this upper A-arm mounting surface to this one, I get a little bit of positive camber. I don't have any room for adjustment. So on this side, I trimmed 3/16 inch off of this spring tower to move it in. I'm able to get one spacer in there and have a 0 camber. Now, I decided to take 3/8 of an inch off of both sides, so I have plenty of room for adjusting using shims, and the alignment guy won't have too much of a pain in the ass. Get these tacked in place. After I get them tacked in place, I check that caster and look at the travel of the suspension, make sure I can lay those running boards out. All right, I think that's about enough for this episode. We've got the independent front suspension installed. It's just tacked in place, but I'm gonna wait until we've got the wheels and tires picked out before I completely burn it into place for good. That way I make sure that those wheels are centered in the wheel wells and everything's moving the way it should. So next video, we will work on the rear suspension. Probably get that bed off, demo out the old Dana rear, and get this Ford 8.8 ready to go in. Plan is to step notch the rear, do parallel 4-link from Thorbros with bag over axle. So that might change. I've been kind of back and forth on parallel versus triangulated 4-link. I guess if you guys listen and care, give me your thoughts on what you think I ought to do. Enjoy the ride. Give me a follow.